For 7 seasons, one man stood at the center of nearly every build featured on one of Velocity's biggest hits, not as the owner, not as the designer, but as the person whose department turned raw, wrecked metal into something a client could be proud of. His name is Bryce Green, and while the cameras loved him, the show never really told you where he came from, why he left when he did, or what he built once he was no longer answering to Dave Kindig. Today, we're filling in the blanks. Bryce Green grew up in Utah, and like a lot of kids raised around gearheads, his interest in cars didn't come from a poster on a bedroom wall. It came from actually being at the shows. His father took him to local car events throughout his childhood, and somewhere in those weekend outings, a fascination with the Ford Mustang took hold and never let go. That fascination turned into something more serious during his senior year of high school. Bryce owned a 1968 Mustang, his first car, and it got hit. Someone crashed into the front end, leaving him with a damaged vehicle and a decision to make. Rather than pay to have it repaired, his father told him to fix it himself. It's the kind of tough love moment that could just as easily have ended with the car sitting under a tarp for a decade. Instead, it became Bryce's introduction to bodywork, and by his own account, it's the moment his real education began. There was no formal instruction at that point, no classroom, no mentor standing over his shoulder. He learned by doing, cutting and shaping metal, working through primer and paint, figuring out what worked through trial and error on a car he genuinely wanted to save. When it was finished, he didn't just have a repaired Mustang. He had a functioning skill set, and he started testing it by entering local car shows, where the restored Mustang started picking up wins. That same year, before he committed to a career path in the automotive world, Bryce also worked painting airplanes at the Ogden Airport, a job that demanded a completely different kind of precision than bodywork on a classic car, but one that likely sharpened the same instincts for detail and finish quality. He then left for 2 years to serve a mission with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Hong Kong, an experience that took him a long way from Utah's car culture and gave him a broader view of the world before he came back and doubled down on cars for good. When Bryce returned from his mission, he didn't just chase a job in a body shop. He pursued formal training. He enrolled at WyoTech's West Sacramento campus in California, a school with a long-standing reputation for producing serious, job-ready automotive technicians. It gave him a structured foundation to sit underneath everything he'd already taught himself on that wrecked Mustang. What sets Bryce apart from a lot of people in the custom car trade is that he didn't stop at technical training. He also earned a degree in international business from Utah State University. It's an unusual pairing, a hands-on fabricator who also understands supply chains, markets, and business strategy, and it's one that would end up mattering a great deal later, once he was no longer working for someone else. Before he ever set foot inside Kindig-it Design, Bryce worked at a car shop in Utah, continuing to build his craft outside the spotlight. By the time an opening came up at Dave Kindig's shop, Bryce wasn't a green kid chasing a TV dream. He was a trained fabricator and bodyman with a business degree in his back pocket, a national mission behind him, and a restored Mustang that proved he could see a difficult project through from start to finish. Bryce joined Kindig-it Design, the Salt Lake City-based shop owned by custom car builder Dave Kindig, working his way in as a bodyman and welder. It wasn't a headline role. It was the kind of position where your work speaks before your name does, and Bryce spent several years proving himself through the quality of what he produced rather than through title or screen time. That work eventually paid off. He was promoted to body shop and paint manager, a role that put him in charge of directing and scheduling the repair and fabrication work on every vehicle that passed through the department. That's a very different job from simply being good with a grinder and a spray gun. It requires managing other skilled tradespeople, keeping builds on schedule, and making sure a shop with a years-long client waitlist doesn't fall behind on projects that customers are paying serious money to see finished right. It was in this role that Bryce became a recognizable face on Bitchin' Rides, the Velocity series built around Dave Kindig and his crew taking on ambitious restoration and custom-build projects. The show became one of the network's most popular offerings and found an audience well beyond the United States, airing internationally under different titles in some markets. Across the show's run, Bryce appeared in dozens of episodes over 7 seasons, and according to Kindig-it Design's own team credits, his character was billed simply as body shop manager, a title that undersold just how central his department was to the finished product audiences saw on screen. Bryce's team worked long days, often 10 to 12 hours, doing the kind of detail-heavy, physically demanding labor that separates a shop capable of show-quality results from one that just gets cars running again. He's spoken publicly about how much care went into building that specific team, describing the process of assembling the right group of fabricators and painters as something that took roughly 2 years to get right, because the shop's production pace didn't leave room for people who couldn't keep up both technically and under pressure. Beyond the wrenching, Bryce also became something of an industry voice on where custom car culture was heading. He spoke to trade outlets about the ongoing shift from traditional, numbers-matching restoration toward the resto-mod approach, vintage bodies paired with modern drivetrains, electronics, and creature comforts. In one interview with an automotive trade publication, Bryce discussed how clients increasingly wanted the look of a classic car without sacrificing the reliability of something built decades later. Electronic fuel injection, modern crate engines, and features like hidden exhaust cutouts and discrete kill switches becoming common requests in high-end builds. He noted that the hot rod market itself had grown into a genuinely large industry, with SEMA's Hot Rod Industry Alliance estimating its value at around $1.26 billion as of 2017, a figure that underscored just how much money and craftsmanship was now flowing through shops like Kindig-it Design. In February 2020, Kindig-it Design posted to Instagram announcing that Bryce Green was no longer part of the company or affiliated with Bitchin' Rides. The post thanked him for 5 years of work and wished him well, but it was short, and comments on it were turned off, a detail that fans noticed immediately. Bryce didn't leave a lengthy public statement of his own, and Kindig-it never elaborated further. That silence left a vacuum, and fans filled it the way fans usually do, with speculation. Some pointed to rumors of off-screen friction with other cast members. Others simply noted the timing of Bryce's growing family and figured personal priorities had shifted. None of that speculation has ever been confirmed by Bryce or by Kindig-it Design, and it's worth being upfront about that. The honest answer is that the full reasoning behind the split has never been made public in detail. What is verifiable is what came next. Rather than disappearing from the industry, Bryce pivoted almost immediately into building things of his own. The first venture to emerge was Dirt Cult USA, a streetwear and motocross-inspired apparel brand built around the slogan, "Become the hero of your own story." It gave Bryce a creative outlet and a direct relationship with an audience that had followed him from the show, independent of Kindig-it's brand. But the more significant, lasting work came in the automotive space. In 2020, Bryce opened Big Kid Custom Rides, his own shop specializing in car modification and full restoration, essentially the same category of work he'd spent years perfecting at Kindig-it, now built around his own name and his own hand-picked crew. According to the company's own account of its founding, Bryce originally expected to become the fourth-generation owner of his family's insurance business, but found he couldn't handle a desk job, and it was a conversation with his wife, Sydney, about his real interest in building cars that set the current chapter of his career in motion. Around the same time, Bryce also launched Big Kid Blocks, a company built around a problem he ran into constantly on the shop floor. Standard sanding blocks weren't built for the demands of professional bodywork. Long days, often 8 or more hours of sanding at a stretch, combined with dense modern body filler and hard-to-shape panels meant that soft, generic blocks were slowing everyone down and contributing to wrist fatigue. Bryce began prototyping his own hard-faced sanding blocks designed for a flatter finish and faster cutting through tough material. According to the company's own telling, his co-workers started fighting over who got to use his prototypes before he'd even formally launched the business, which is about as clear a signal of product-market fit as a fabricator can get. Big Kid Blocks has since grown into a legitimate parts and tool supplier, offering sanding blocks, polishes, compounds, and other body shop essentials, along with training classes aimed at helping other painters and bodymen sharpen their own technique. Taken together, the two businesses reflect the same combination that made Bryce valuable at Kindig-it Design in the first place: real, calloused hands technical skill paired with an actual business education. Not many people in the custom car world can say they've both run a body department on national television and studied international business at the university level. That combination is precisely what let Bryce move from employee to owner without missing a beat. Bryce has kept much of his personal life out of the spotlight, which is a notable contrast to how public his professional work has become through Instagram and his company's social channels. He's married to Sydney Green, and the two have children together, a detail he's shared in glimpses, like posts marking holidays with his family, rather than through extended public storytelling. His Instagram presence today reflects the same dual identity that defines his post-Kindig-it career, part TV personality trading on his bitchin' rides history, part working business owner promoting big kid custom rides and big kid blocks to a following that has stuck with him well past his time on the show. Strip away the Instagram slogans and the reality TV title cards, and what's left is a fairly simple through line. A teenager in Utah gets handed a wrecked Mustang and a blunt instruction from his father, teaches himself to fix it, and turns that into formal training, a business degree, and years of grinding work inside one of the most demanding custom shops in the country. Then, when that chapter ends, for reasons that have never been fully explained to the public, he doesn't fade out. He builds two companies that draw directly on everything he learned along the way. Kindig-it Design gave Bryce Green a stage and an audience. It didn't build his skill set, and it clearly didn't own his ambition. Whatever really happened behind that February 2020 announcement, the years since have made one thing obvious. Bryce was never just a supporting character in someone else's story. He was building his own the entire time. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Bryce Green's journey, let us know in the comments which part of his story surprised you most, and subscribe for more untold stories from the custom car world.